Moving back to Mauritius, the fast expanding Mauritian economy and regional opportunities present a lot of opportunities for investment in banking. The sector has sustained growth of about 7.8% per annum over the last few years. Earlier, I got the opportunity to catch up with Raoul Goufflet, the head of international at MCB Bank, and this is what he had to say.
The business model of MCB is very straightforward, I must say. We've been in business for more than 175 years, and our history of growing internationally is not that old. We first embarked into an international journey some 15, 20 years ago when we decided to accompany our Mauritian customers outside of the boundaries of Mauritius. And obviously we followed those companies who were engaged into the main three pillars of the economy, like the sugar, the textile, and the tourism. And this is how we started growing our presence in the neighboring countries of Madagascar, Mozambique, Seychelles, and more recently the Maldives. But very recently, some 4 or 5 years back, we decided to embark into an African journey, which has radically changed the way we were doing business internationally, and especially on the continent.
Of course, I understand. Allow me to interject, please, Raoul. I understand that you received $150 million from the African Development Bank to support business. Share a little bit with us about that, and in particular, in which African countries are you planning to lend these funds? Well,
a lot of people have been asking us the question about this African Development Line. Yes, it is quite an achievement from MCB, and we are very happy that African Development Bank has decided to grant us their confidence and allow us to fund our growth. This line was actually aiming at two purposes. The first one was obviously, as you probably are aware, to try and consolidate our balance sheet in the line with the important group restructuring that MCB is going through. Which is aiming at separating the banking and the non-banking activities. And obviously, as part of this restructuring exercise, we needed to consolidate our capital. And a portion of this African Development Line is obviously subordinated debt, which will help us comply with the new Basel III requirements and consolidate our base to fund the growth. The remainder of this line, the $120 million, is going to help us finance and fund medium to long-term projects. Obviously, this line is a 10-year line, which will allow us to finance infrastructure and all kind of projects on the African continent. There are no specific countries in which we would need to use the line, but obviously it remains at our discretion. But there are some specificities which we need to abide to with regards to the financing that we're going to make, and these obviously are projects that needs to be related to the development of the African continent, not necessarily infrastructure, but most of it should be in the infrastructure sector, but it can be any sector of the industry, and obviously we will have all latitude to decide on the project on the basis of the interaction we will have with African Development Bank to make them aware of what is it that we're going to do.
Raoul, thank you for that particular insight. And of course, we will be following those activities with the African Development Bank funding. But perhaps let's shift our focus to the Africa Forward Conference, which I understand kicks off on the 17th of November. What is MCB trying to achieve with this gathering?
Africa Forward Together is also part of our African roadmap that we decided to embark in some 6-7 years back. This year is the 5th seminar, and obviously Africa Development Bank, who was invited last year, is part of the success of this seminar. This year we're going to have some 50 bankers coming from 39 or 40 banks across 14 countries in Africa. And the important for us and the ambition we have during this seminar is to showcase what we have as an ambition to become the bank of banks for the second-tier banks in Africa. When you hear Bank of Banks, obviously it doesn't mean that much to those people who are not privy to the financial industry sector and the banking sector. But the objective is really to assist those banks in Africa who haven't yet invested in their own infrastructure to capitalize on the existing excess capacity that MCB has built, both in terms of our IT infrastructure, but also our trade finance competencies, our payments capabilities, our cards infrastructure, to make this capacity available to them and propose that they can offload or outsource some of those activities to MCB.
Rahul, very quickly before I let you go, I mean, understanding that MCB has already been ranked in the top 25 banks on the continent, what can we expect from MCB going forward in terms of innovations in products and services? Before talking about innovation on the continent, what we really want to do is to demonstrate that we are a bank that is going to build on partnership. Our business model in Africa is first and foremost not to compete on the continent with those banks who already are present on the domestic market. We want to help them, we want to accompany them, we want to share risk with them, we want to be part of the overall African journey without being too arrogant or just trying to punch on their existing market. So yes, we have an African ambition, yes, we have an African roadmap. For the time being, it is essentially based on mutual understanding and partnership with those African banks who would like to rely on MCB's core competencies and services. And when the time will be right, I would not be able to tell you when it is, because we are an opportunistic bank, excuse me. And when the opportunity will arise for us to grow externally, we will decide to do so. But for the time being, it's not necessarily on the agenda. But we are looking. We have our eyes open, and we will take the necessary actions when time will be.